Thanks for watching KTN News. My name is Dennis Asseto. Welcome to this edition of Morning Prime. Today, remember, is Turn Point, where we get to converse through the stories that made headlines during the weekend. Today, what the dailies are saying, we shall be going to that a little bit later. In studio with me, I'll be having Wilson Sossion, former NAT Secretary General and former nominated Member of Parliament, as we converse through issues to do with where we are as a country. The government saying it is broke, but the same government says that it wants to put in place and appoint CSs. Where are we on that conversation? Also in studio, I will be having lawyer, wakili, constitutional lawyer, Ndegwa, as we have this discussion as well. It's going to be a packed up morning. Wakili Njiru Ndegwa is already in here conversing through the dailies, and just walking in is Wilson Sossion as we get ready to have this conversation. But before we get to that, what are some of the stories that made headlines? Let's just take this story where President William Ruto is defending his foreign travel, and President William Ruto has continued to defend his foreign trips amidst backlash from a section of Kenyans and the opposition that the executive is wasting taxpayers' money. President Ruto, who was speaking when he attended a church service in Kimende, Kiambu County, says his trips are part of his plan to look for jobs and seek partnerships. Jeff Kirui with the details.
With more than 45 trips out of the country since assuming office in September last year, President William Ruto continues to defend his foreign travels against criticisms that he is burning away taxpayers' money amidst Kenya's economic strains.
Kwa muda wa mwaka moja nimetembea nchi nyingi kutafuta vile tunaweza kusukuma maendeleo ya Kenya. Na nimepanga marafiki wengi. Tuko na marafiki sasa wa World Bank, tuko na wa IMF, tuko na wa Marekani, tuko na wa China, tuko na wale wengine wote.
According to President Ruto, his foreign trips fit in his strategic plan to create and source for employment opportunities and partnerships to steer development.
Juzi kiongozi wa upinzani analalamika ati anasema huyu Ruto watu wengi sasa wanapelekwa nje kufanya kazi. Kwani alikuwa anataka wabaki hapa Kenya wakingojea nini? Si tulikubaliana kazi ni kazi. Na bado sasa amelalamika mapema. Bado watu watatoka Kenya hii waende wafanye kazi nje kwa maelfu. Kuna wale wanaenda Israel mwezi huu na mwezi ujao kufanya kazi. Kuna wale nimekubaliana na watu wa Ujerumani, kuna wale nimekubaliana na watu wa Marekani, kuna wale tumekubaliana na watu wa Saudia, kwa sababu tunataka kuhakikisha ya kwamba hii Kenya kila mtu, vijana wetu wengi wanapata mahali ya kujishikilia, wanapata mahali ya mapato. Kwanza hawa wenye wanaenda nje ndio watatusaidia kuleta madola, ndio hii exchange rate waje kutusumbua.
Ruto, citing his trip to France, that he says he managed to engage his counterpart Emmanuel Macron for talks on the revival of the project to dual the Nairobi-Nakuru highway.
Nimeketi chini na yeye mara mbili. Mara ya mwisho ilikuwa karibu wiki 3 iliyopita, na kuna vile tumekubaliana, kwa sababu mimi nataka hii barabara tuanze kujenga from next year. Na tunataka tujenge sio hata ifike Nakuru, tunataka tusukume mpaka ipite Eldoret. Iwe leni 4 ndio tupate nafasi ya kutembea katika taifa letu la Kenya bila vizuizi na bila matatizo.
And despite concerns by many Kenyans of tough economic times characterized by high cost of living, the head of state has assured Kenyans that the economy is gradually heading in a positive trajectory.
Mambo ilikuwa msukosuko, ilikuwa hapo ya uchumi. Sasa uchumi yetu tumedhibiti. Our economy is now stable. Naona watu wa magazeti hawaamini, lakini polepole watakuja kuamini. Hata unga hawakuamini itashuka chini, lakini wameanza kuzoea. So polepole tutazoeana tu tukienda mbele.
You found and inherited an economy that was in the doldrums or in a deep, bottomless pit. You have been able to fill up that pit. At least now we have some light at the end of the tunnel. We can see where we are going. And I want to encourage you, Your Excellency, Usishtuke watu wakisema mambo mengi.
Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
Very well, a lot to say on that specific subject, but now ODM and Azimio leader Raila Odinga wants the prices of petroleum products in the country to be reduced significantly following the reduction of crude oil prices in the world market. Speaking in Mureshi village in Kajiado East constituency during a Thanksgiving ceremony, Odinga said it will be unfair for EPRA not to reduce the prices of petroleum in the wake of what's happening in the world market. He said the prices should be reduced by 45 shillings or even 50 shillings to cushion Kenyans from the pressure caused by the high cost of living.
Jamaa wameshindwa kuendesha hali uchumi sawa sawa. Sasa wanaanza sasa kujaribu kuuza mashirika ya serikali. Mashirika ya serikali wanataka kuuza. Wameshauza zingine, wametoza ushuru. Sasa wamesema hii kampuni hii tutauza, hii tutauza, KICC watauza, pipeline wataka kuuza. Tumesema hiyo tunakataa. Hiyo sisi Wakenya wamekataa, mali yao isiuzwe kwa watu binafsi, ibaki chini ya miliki ya umma. Zile ambazo zinaitwa strategic institutions kama Kenya Pipeline Corporation zisiuzwe kwa watu binafsi. Manake wale ikiuzwa kwa watu binafsi watatafuta faida na bei ya mafuta itapanda juu zaidi. Sasa tuna habari ya kwamba bei ya mafuta katika soko ya ulimwengu imerudi chini. Sasa natakana mwezi huu wapunguze bei ya mafuta na shilingi 45 kwa lita. Sio ati shilingi 5, shilingi 10 peke yake. 45 au 50 kwa lita. Manake bei ya mafuta imerudi chini kabisa katika soko ya ulimwengu.
And very well. Now, those are just sentiments of what leaders have been saying during the weekend. The government saying that the economy has stabilized. That is President William Ruto together with the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua saying they inherited a government that was literally in the ICU, but that they are doing everything necessary and possible to make sure that the economy is back on its tracks. But now let's just go straight to the papers. Now we start with Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. And the top story on The Standard is Treasury claims it's broke. Experts say it's all about wastage and luxury. That is the top story on The Standard today. And if we just read on that, while government says it does have money, it does not have money to pay salaries or the CDF. Now, reports indicate it's spending on luxury trips and hospitality. And luxury trips and hospitality has gone up by 30%, with analysts saying much needed money is being diverted to things that can be avoided. And still on that, still on Kenya's bold newspaper, on the side is conservators in a battle for Laikipia Plains. That is on The Standard, where it says conservationists and nature enthusiasts are battling what they consider to be capitalists seeking to invest in southern part of Loldiaga Hills Ranch that is key habitat to wildlife. I think Lawyer Njeru has something to say about climate change and it being an African issue. We shall be getting into that discussion a little bit later. But still on The Standard, you can see interesting things. Kenyan search on Google. You know, every month Google gives us the Google Trends, what Kenyans have been searching. But now it is what Kenyans have been searching throughout the year. We shall be getting into that as well. Described as Egyptian President Al-Sisi seeks the third term. Remember, Egyptians went to the polls yesterday. The elections the voting process will take 3 days, as results will be released a little bit later. That is from Egypt. And also, coffee wars persist. These as new team has been picked. Remember, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is on the forefront in making sure that he sorts out the mess in the coffee industry. Where is he? Is he winning? Is our coffee being treated with respect as it deserves? That we wait to see, and has been canvassed in The Standard today in page 19. And fingers crossed as athletes await top awards. Who will be getting these top awards? You know, it has been a busy week for athletes across the world. In Kenya, we had Eliud Kipchoge, the man who beat his record a little bit later. We also have athletes in Kenya who have performed very well, but those are just some of the stories that are making headlines on Kenya's Bold newspaper. A little bit down on that as well on the national segment. That is counties run on empty. One of service collapse. These as Treasury Cabinet Secretary warned last week that the government is downright broke. They are struggling to pay salaries. But on the other side, the same government is taking names to the National Assembly. There is a motion National Assembly seeking to make sure that CASs are actually appointed by President William Ruto. So on one end, we are broke. On the other end, we want to continue paying more salaries. And also, the cast of founding fathers, Matthew's dark secrets come to light. These as Kenya is expected to celebrate 60 years of independence. Tomorrow, we shall be bringing you that live when the day gets here tomorrow from the Uhuru Gardens. But now let's go to the next paper, that is the Daily Nation. And top on the Daily Nation is Raila under siege. Why is Raila under siege? We are looking at that. Let's just read a little bit on that. And Azimio leader Raila Odinga is a man under siege and under pressure. Some of his coalition allies have refused to support his decision to endorse the Boma stocks report over its failure to include ways of cutting taxes to bring down the cost of living. And who are some of these people that have decided to say no to that report? On the left, that is NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua says the Bomas report should be rejected in total. And DAP-K leader Eugene Omala, who was a member of Talks team, has opposed the report. He said that he would not append his signature on that document. But on top of Martha Karua is former President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Azimio Council chairman, who is said to be opposed to the report as well. This is the latest, according to The Nation, that former President Uhuru Kenyatta is equally opposed to the report. Remember, Azimio was really pushing to make sure that cost of living becomes a center stage on that report as they went to Bomas to discuss how to lower the cost of living, how political parties should be respected, some of the issues that the members there seem to be having issues with. But still on the Daily Nation, inside the president's ambitious project to raise 1.5 trillion shillings through e-citizen. It will be remembered that all the government accounts, all the government agencies were collapsed and made sure that they pay using a single pay bill number. This is making sure that money goes to the government coffers and not in different places. That is on the Daily Nation. And new push to make male circumcision mandatory free. Now, a draft bill to be tabled in the National Assembly seeks to make male circumcision mandatory, but under the supervision of a trained medical personnel. This is a story. Remember, there was a sad report over the weekend that there were a few boys who some lost their lives, some were hospitalized because the procedure was not done in a very professional way. That is on the Daily Nation this morning. But let's move swiftly to the People Daily. On the People Daily, top on the People Daily is Raila dilemma on talks and report. The same story has been carried here. And political analysts say adopting National Dialogue Committee's report, on which his key ally, Kalonzo Musyoka, served as co-chair, has not addressed high cost of living issue and would appear like betrayal of his supporters. Remember that even Martha Karua, the now Kenya party leader, had said that that report does not encompass the reason why Kenyans died. Kenyans went on the streets to demand that the cost of living comes down. But we also, still on the People Daily, state spending on travel rises to 4 billion shillings. Remember, the Travels President William Ruto has been taken out of the country, continues to be a subject of conversation, even as he continues to say that whenever it goes out, it is planning to bring jobs back home. But his opponents are saying that he's traveling a lot and maybe he needs to put a stop on that. And tomorrow is Jamhuri Day, and on the People Daily, security has been beefed up ahead of Jamhuri Day tomorrow, the 60th Jamhuri Day at the Uhuru Gardens here in Nairobi. And we move swiftly to the Swahili paper, that is Taifa Leo. And Ruto autea shilingi trilioni 1.5 iwapo maazimio haya yatatimia. Wataalamu wa e-Citizen wasema serikali itajiongezea mapato hayo juu ya yale ya sasa na hivyo kupunguza utegemezi wa Kenya kwa mikopo ya kigeni. That is on Taifa Leo. These as CS Transport Kipchumba Murkomen sasa atishia kumshtaki Cherargei. Waziri huyo adai seneta amekuwa akimchafulia jina hadharani. Murkomen asema kuwa ataenda kotini kuhakikisha kuwa mwenziwe ambaye pia ni seneta Cherargei atachukuliwa hatua za kisheria. And ni weekendi ya vichapo kwa wazito ligi ya EPL. Chelsea, Manchester United pamoja na Arsenali warambwa. Ilikuwa ni kichapo weekend hii, lakini pia that is what is trending on Taifa Leo, the top stories that they've carried. And mwigizaji mbunifu pia wa Masai wazidi kukumbatia upangaji uzazi. That is all to do with family planning that is now being embraced by the Masai community. Let's just go swiftly to Business Daily, and top on Business Daily today. Middle class turn to salary advances as economy bites. Why is the economy biting? Is it all about taxes? We will be having this discussion on the cost of living, where we are as a country. Are our coffers dry? That is what Business Daily rather has given priority today. And cooking gas prices rise to levels before VAT removal. Remember, the price of cooking gas went down, but now it seems like it's back to where it was before. And excise taxes hit on reduced beer, cigarette consumption. This is just on the Business Daily as they continue to give the stories making headlines. But now I want us to come back to studio and have this conversation on where we are as a country. Are our coffers empty? What do we need to do? Is the government doing what it must to make sure the cost of living goes down? We'll also be touching on the fact that yesterday, the entire country, I woke up this morning, still no power. Cold showers and hospitals not having power. I can see Wakili in the studio laughing. But this time round, who will be blamed on this? We need to see heads rolling. Wilson Sosion will also be having his say on that. Gentlemen, welcome on the show. Wilson Sosion, karibu sana. Wakili Njeru Ndegwa, karibuni sana. Off the cliff.
Thank you, Dennis. Good morning.
Sosion, you seem to be chilled. You're relaxed this morning, yeah?
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah.
Cold showers in the morning, or you have a backup generator?
There's electricity.
There's electricity.
Electricity came back,
yeah? But it's a national problem. Wakili, and you, cold showers in the morning?
Cold showers, systems down. If by the way, even the internet has not even completely resumed. We are all yesterday glued to the TV trying to analyze the week and the wongo that the week had, only to be surprised with the power. But I'm just surprised that if during the time of El Nino, and you know William Ruto is a meteorologist, he's the one who declared that there is not going to be El Nino. All of a sudden, we have plenty of water. Water is drowning people down the Tana River Delta. And then all of a sudden, there's no power. So this power outrage is not being occasioned by the failure to have enough hydro generation, but a sabotage. I don't know why the government is sabotaging itself. But this government is not being trusted with anything. When you see lights going off as they are, just know that there is a mischief that is being perpetrated and perpetuated by this regime.
So, sir, you have to respond to that. Tell me about it.
No,
You say it's sabotage. He says it's sabotage.
From Wakili's comments,
Murkomen equally says
From
someone is
Wakili's
sabotaging
comments-
JKIA.
From
What do you have to
comments,
say?
It looks like I may have nothing much to comment about it because those are extreme imaginations. Power blackout is a common thing and is a technical thing, and electrical engineers have explained as much, and it takes time to stabilize the power system, and we've been having it for a while. But the one of yesterday, I think it was promptly handled. If you're showered with cold water, I've showered with warm water, there's electricity.
Because you are Sesson.
And I live in
Being a Sesson, you must take cold water.
and I don't live in suburbs. I live with the ordinary workers of Kenya, and there was electricity. So really, we don't need to blow things out of proportions. While it's not right to have regular power interruptions, we must have reliable, constant supply of power, and that is the responsibility of the ministry concerned to ensure that if there are issues, then they must be addressed. But we cannot politicize everything. We cannot politicize even natural occurrences. You talk about El Nino and the effects, of course, which are being addressed, and it was predicted, and all these weather phenomena all over the world are very catastrophic. And I think what you've done is Kenya to put in the necessary intervention measures, and what government is doing through the team that is working on the same is quite commendable. So there's no cause for alarm, and those who would want to create politics even out of natural occurrences, they are free to do so. We are a free and democratic.
Let me just listen to.
But nevertheless, the political stability of the country is palpable, and we're moving onward.
Dennis, if there was anything proportional about this government, then Mheshimiwa would then be accusing us of bringing it out of proportion. But there is nothing that you can simply touch or place your eyes on that is working with this regime. This regime is much preoccupied with plundering the resources of this country, to the extent that even the declaration of El Nino and the subsequent denouncements of that declaration, it was just a scheme to raid on our coffers. Remember, William said that he's the one who led the prayers that resulted into El Nino. I want to remind him that his prayers were held this year in February, and therefore they were focused on the long lanes, which failed miserably. And then he came and claimed glory that he's one who prayed for this El Nino. Immediately that he made those pronouncements, then the phenomenon then changed to what we have now. For the last 3 weeks, we have not been having those rains. And the reason why they were strategically positioning themselves with the declaration of El Nino, creating committees, it is not meant to mitigate anything. It is meant to mitigate the emptiness in their pockets. It is meant to make sure that El Nino of resources reigns in their pockets. And that's the tragedy this country is having, that we are not being governed by honest people. We are not being governed by honest men, truthful men. There are people who are just out to enrich themselves. And that is the tragedy that we are having. I want to see how Murkomen is going to react to this now, that he sacked our Kirinyaga man who was MD from Kirinyaga. Mr. Gitari was sacked by Murkomen. I want to see how he's now going to respond to this situation. Number two, I want to remind him that they should be able to blame President Uhuru Kenyatta for the power outages that they have been having. I want to remind them that they should focus on blaming President Kenyatta even for what happened yesterday, because that is what they have now perfected.
Let me just come to Sosion now. Sosion, it is a question of there has been power outages this is a third power outage in less than 3 months, and this is a countrywide power outage. And what should we now see from the two ministries, that is Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Energy? Should we see heads roll finally, and even the president respond to this?
I think from the labor perspective where I come from, let us address the real problems. Let us not transfer emotions to threaten jobs of individuals unless there is proof that they are deliberately engaged in sabotage, which you and I in this studio are not seized of any credible information that informs certain decisions. But the key thing here is that Kenyans want reliable and sustainable power throughout. The manufacturing sectors, they need reliable power throughout. The transport infrastructure, and I think that is where the ministry, the Kipchumba Murkomen is coming in because of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And it exposed Jomo Kenyatta International Airport that it didn't have reliable emergency generators, which is a requirement for those very sensitive installations that require power outage 24/7. So this is not the time to try and act irrationally. We cannot be rational over a problem that we know little about. What is causing these power outages, breakdown? And from the explanation of engineers, when you have this massive collapse, you cannot just force it back immediately. It takes time to try and stabilize the system until it really gets work. And it's a gradual process from the engineering explanation when you have it massive as it is. I think it's important we listen to the experts and how they're restoring and how they're trying to ensure that we don't have such in future. I will try to restrain myself from getting emotional and irrational and trying to talk politically like my colleague. I don't belong to that school of thought. I belong, if there is power blackout, it's dealt with professionally. And I think the CS Energy has been on it very effectively. And when you talk about El Nino, these are weather phenomena, and the country was prepared about it all through. And the government went through and considered the predictions and prepared for mitigation measures, intervention measures. And remember, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua convened meetings to prepare the country for the same and to prepare the necessary state departments and personnel to do the same. So it wasn't it's something that the country did not prepare for. We prepared, but at some point, the almost indicators from the weathermen that it would be
from William.
It would be, no.
William,
from weathermen
it's William Ruto who declared, unless he has become a meteorologist.
The intensity, and I'm a climatologist by training and by virtue.
Perhaps you need to advise
that then the intensity would not be as high as was expected, but nevertheless we should prepare as a country. Those were data that were coming, which we were interacting with as a country. But when it came, the consequences we've been handling as a country.
So
been handled very well. So I don't want us to reason myopically.
No, you cannot say we are reasoning myopically when Mr. Ruto goes and declares it's not going to be El Nino.
With two great scientific phenomena. El Nino, which is a factor of climate change, and we are dealing with power blackout, which is also more scientific.
Phenomenon.
So really, how does it concern political systems? And for me, as a Labour leader, as a Labour leader, I would urge government officers not to hurry into sacking and dismissing people unless there is evidence that there is impropriety on their part and that they failed deliberately in their duties, or they deliberately engaged in sabotage. In such circumstances, and there's foolproof evidence, then you can take administrative action. He's a lawyer.
Before Wakili will come, but Sosyon, even while we were still discussing the phenomenon, we saw President William Ruto coming out to say, Mungu ni nani? You know, we prayed for rains, they're here, but Mungu ni nani? There is no El Nino. Only for the Met boss to come and apologize to Kenyans on the statements that were made later, because we were here and we saw that happen. But now, Wakili, even as we have this discussion now, who is responsible on these power outages? We know the first time when it happens, we know someone was fired at JKIA.
Yes.
Still, that has not been repaired. The generator has not been repaired. Two occasions power still has gone and JKIA has been affected.
Yes.
Who is responsible?
You know, they keep on saying that the fish will always rot from the head. The fish is rotten. And how is it rotten? In the sense that William Ruto is not able to instill discipline in governance. The sort of breakdown of the rule of law in this regime. There is no accountability in this regime. There is no transparency in this regime. It's a total failure of the regime, to the extent that when such kind of an incident happen, even Parliament itself, which has become an extension of the executive, is not able to help to hold these guys to account. For example, if we were in a democratic situation whereby the rule of law and morality and reason prevails, today, Churchill will not be holding that position. You just ask yourself, how much economic loss are we suffering when there are these power outages? Number two, when we have this kind of blackouts, frequent ones, are we breathing confidence to our would-be investors to the extent that they can be convinced that there is a reliable source of power in this country? So there is total failure of the system. Parliament has failed. The executive itself has failed. It is now upon the people to hold these guys to account. Number three, if you see this happening, there must be a scheme that is being orchestrated by this regime. Either there's somebody who wants to justify the purchase of massive power backups in the airports and other strategic installments, or there is somebody who wants to fight some of the licensed private power producers. Remember the first time this occurred, the blame was laid on the Turkana wind power station. Reason being, they were targeting it. And they are targeting it as a means and a means of attempting to say that they are now addressing issues of state capture. So these things are not just happening. My hypothesis indicates somebody wants to float a tender and benefit from it. Number two, someone is targeting some strategic private power producers because somebody wants to invest in them or want to prove that they are not bankable. Then they are retired with an option of them bringing some certain alternative. These things are not just happening. Remember, there's somebody during the African Climate Summit who drove, William drove an electric vehicle. You've now seen today, in the COP 28, all of them being lost as to when we should retire the fossil fuels. Somebody is strategizing on how to benefit, because it's a government of merchants. It's a government of merchants, it's a government of traders, it's a government of wheeler dealers. It's not a government of leaders. So someone is focusing on those particular strategic issues that I have raised.
Now, let's just move swiftly from issues to do with Kenya Power. We hope that today we'll get a statement from the relevant bodies.
It will not be necessary even if they bring a statement.
Let us wait to see they give us an explanation, as Sosyon equally said, that there are engineers, professionals who will be handling this. So let's just wait and see that.
And allow me to first of all congratulate Mheshimiwa Sosyon. When he was in the labor movement, he he was a very, very focused and diligent person. And I've implored on him that he should regain his consciousness when he was in the labor movement, because he's now a completely different person.
So, sir, just respond to that.
I think I have a right of rebuttal.
Yes.
I don't know what my brother took in the morning before coming to the show, because he's operating out of context. And I urge him to stabilize himself, because he's speaking with the issues with literally everything and everyone. And Wilson Sossion, the Labour leader,
yes, and
is
Wilson,
here, is conscious,
the
is conscious within the political space of this country. I enjoy my rights as provided in Article 38, and I owe no apology to you or to anybody else.
We have not even demanded for one.
To you and to anybody else
not even sought
for
the
the
apology.
political decisions that I have, that which I believe in, of UDA and of Kenya Kwanza, and if really you glorify me as a labor leader, as I was,
unionist,
it is that corner where you stay that worked on dismantling the strength of some of us. Within that.
Let us. Wakili.
Yes.
So Wakili here should stop defending an evil corner, and he should defend
gentlemen,
justice.
Gentlemen, let us rest that there. Let us rest that there.
I don't know the size of the potato that is enjoying in that corner. That is defending.
How are we associated with the power outrages, Mr.
the most
Soseni?
immoral wall.
That's why I'm saying you regain
That
your
is not
consciousness.
defendable even before.
I am simply imploring on you to regain your consciousness.
Gentlemen,
That is
kindly.
not defendable
Kindly.
even before
Kindly.
a council of
Okay,
devils.
okay, Dennis.
Gentlemen, kindly, let's move forward. Let's go to page 4 on the Standard now. It is a question of irony of a broke Ruto government living large. Now, this is story on page 4 of the Standard. And if we just zoom into that, we see Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango. Now, a new report by the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, has shed light on the ongoing wastage of government fueled by a frenzy of luxury travels, fuel guzzlers, and unused idle billions, even as some senior government officials make claim that the government is broke. In 2 minutes, Sossion, what do you make of the new statement from the Controller of Budget?
Well, I'm still here to understand the Controller of Budget.
She has now become an
I really want to understand
incomparable
the Controller of Budget with those flying statements. I've seen quite a number of statements that are not verifiable, and it is very easy to accuse government. It's one of the easiest things. You wake up, say anything, throw a statement out there. But the Auditor General is seized with the matter of giving us a proper audit report. The Public Investment Committee of the House, of the two houses, are also seized with that responsibility to verify. So these are statements that are subject to verification process. Government is not wasteful. Government is working. You can't expect government to be elected and then it freezes. It doesn't work. And as it works, it spends to deliver services. So really, when government is working, you cannot turn around again and stab it at the back that it's engaged in wastages. That's irrational. So what do you expect government to do? To sleep? To remain frozen? Not to engage in activities? Kenyans are crying about the cost of living. A lot needs to be done to fix it. We have a manifesto to deliver that is going to speak to the problems and challenges of Kenyans. If you talk about investing in the agricultural sector, turning it around, turning the coffee sector, milk sector, tea sector, sugarcane sector, and ensuring that we completely turn around the agricultural sector with the long-term programs of irrigation to turn around agriculture. It's a lot of work when you talk about reforming the micro, small, medium enterprise and injecting life to them. It involves lots of activities,
Dennis,
including digital superhighway and so many others.
That's a sad story.
Now,
Let him finish.
Now,
Yeah, okay.
now, tell me about execution. How is government expected to execute this? And you see,
Dennis,
from the opposition side, they can speak about anything.
Is there wastage in government?
They can speak about anything.
Let him finish.
Let him finish.
So let him not
say
digress from
nobody
the
can
issues.
verify that there is wastage, and I can say there is
Simple, you have
no
answered
wastage.
the question.
Okay.
No, you are not an anchor yourself.
No, I am not an anchor, but I'm just trying to bring you to perspective that you're not
and
answering.
I think you as an anchor,
in a few words,
you should deal with this.
In a few words.
Yes.
Is there wastage in government? And if so, why do you believe there is wastage in government?
Allow me to define this wastage. Yes, there is wastage in government, and it is in a form of corruption and stealing and raiding on our public coffers.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, we have proof of that. First of all, we're not able to account for the edible oil. Was it 96 million? Nobody is able to account for that. Number two, nobody is able to account for how a single woman is able to import oil or crude oil worth 17 billion without the involvement of the ministry. And the ministry went silent on that. Government went silent on that. The parliament went silent on that. They did a mockery of an inquiry, which has not yielded any results. So when the controller of budget comes and says there is wastage, I compare the control of budget to an alligator which comes from the water and says the crocodile is sick. Who am I to doubt the alligator? The alligator must have known, must have seen that the crocodile is very sick. And therefore, when the control of budget comes and says that there is wastage, we can only believe in what she's saying because she's the one who is mandated with that responsibility constitutionally. So what Mr. Sosioni should be doing, you're asking him to do what is impossible, to defend the indefensible. All of a sudden, they have now considered Margaret Nyakango to be incoherent in her submissions.
Wakili.
And you can see the tribulation that has followed her.
Wakili, we rested there.
Yes.
Let's take this short commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation. Also, the government is broke, but CASs, it is now in parliament. When we come back.
I'll not be surprised if you hear Mr. Sosioni saying that this money was taken by President
Let's
Kenyatta.
take this short commercial break.